When I hear sex trafficking, I think about taking.
I think
Okay, I think about very extreme versions of that. However, I can see where the prosecution is coming from with this. When you look up the definition of sex trafficking, that is really what you have in this case. However, in order for me to really say Cassie was sex trafficked, I would have to believe that she wasn't a willing participant. And the truth is, you just like you have Diddy, who's perverted and just sadistic, women can be just the same. I just don't want to. As much as I do think that Diddy is guilty of a lot of things, I don't necessarily know how much of this Cassie situation solely falls in his lap. That's just like saying that, you wouldn't just get the prostitute, you would get the pimp. You wouldn't just get the pimp, you would get the prostitute too. This is no shade. It's no shade on Cassie. It's only what is factual. But the fact that Cassie has been paid now $30 million for her time and her trauma that she actually brought on herself by continuing certain relationships with Diddy, orchestrating these freak-offs to a certain extent, that in return lets me know that, I don't know. I think a lot of women have been manipulated and abused, verbally abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused. In a lot of cases, it doesn't mean that I deserve $30 million for it, or I can think that I deserve $30 million for it. If I begin to do things because I think that this is going to make a person feel away from me, it doesn't mean I get to have buyer's remorse down the road because now I'm ashamed of the things that I did when I was in a different mindset. Even the text messages of her, hitting Diddy up saying, hey, do you have any more pills? Do you have any more of this? Do you have any more of that? Do you want to go to the freak off? We can get together this weekend. I even seen a message where Diddy said, hey, we can do something else. So I think Monday and Tuesday, if you had to ask me, I would say, man, Diddy just, oh my goodness, he just took this 19, 20-year-old girl. She was at a very, precious stage, and he just took that and, pretty much, defiled her innocence. That's what I would have thought Monday and Tuesday. But Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, or the end part of the case, when we have to really go into some of the other evidence that really show that Cassie was just as complicit. Even if we say, oh, well, she was just doing that because she wanted to get Diddy's attention, that's not an excuse. That is not a valid excuse. All of these things of why you do certain things and then at the end have buyer's remorse, all of that is a lack of accountability. And again, her being able to get up there and tell her story and lay out every gruesome, embarrassing account, because there's some things, even myself, I'm like, it's just going to be me and the Most High that knows this. I think most of us know that there are some things that we have done in our past, and we just like, listen, it's just going to be between me and you, Father. So for her to get up and give her account, nobody can take away the empowerment that she says she felt. There are things that, she may needed to confront. This is what happens when you play with demons and then you want to push through these demons. However, you pushing through and coming out on the other end, you can't. It's almost like Alice at the end when she get out of Wonderland and she gets back into reality. It's almost like if Alice was to say, well, I really didn't want to go down the rabbit hole. But you did. Okay? And sometimes when you go down that rabbit hole, you can't come back out the way you went in. You got to go all the way through. And this is what Cassie did. Now, kudos to her. No one is taken away from that. But there is a level of accountability. And just looking at it and saying, if I'm just looking at this very week, I can't say oh my goodness, Diddy just did Cassie in. No, Cassie allowed a level of her own victimhood. And sometimes you can get in so deep you don't know how to get out. This is why you have to know, you have to spot red flags and get out when it's time to get out. The very first time Diddy introduced this to her and said, hey, this is what I'm into. At that particular point, we all have decisions to make. This is the way of life. And we can, and I'm saying we because, I just like to generalize the fact that it's not something that just one person goes through. No, all of us make decisions, and at a point of that decision, it's a crossroad. You either gonna go left or you gonna go right.